I'm Dr. Richard Abbey. I show parents of children suffering from ADHD what to do so their children don't have to suffer anymore. And the big question of the day is, does ADHD go away? Super powerful information because you need to know. And guess what? In the past, the thinking was that, it went away by like 12 to 14 years old. And the reason why people used to think this was because they were mainly focused on the hyperactivity. So in general, as kids get older, when they're very young, they're very hyperactive, maybe. It's just one component of ADHD. And that tends to get better over time. So although many people report that, it's hard for them to sit still and wait in lines or maybe even watch a movie for the full length or sit in a classroom, but they can do it and they're not up and out of their chair and things like that. The thing that is kind of the invisible part of ADHD, the one that most people don't see, is the attention regulation part and it's the impulsivity part. So what I mean by the attention regulation, now many people call this attention deficit. Well, it's a deficit in attention, but it's a little more specific than that. And what I mean by that is it's more about attention regulation for things that are not very interesting to you, or you don't have a lot of intrinsic motivation for. So, if writing English papers isn't your thing, or reading whatever novel it is, or whatever assignment you have at school, or maybe writing is your thing, but not that particular writing, that can be extremely hard for somebody with ADHD to sustain their attention on this thing that's not very interesting. But maybe math or science is their thing. Maybe it's the opposite. Typically, for the things that people are really interested in, whether or not you have ADHD, we can focus on that. For people, even people that don't have ADHD, yes, it's harder, but you can power through it. But for people with ADHD, they have this relative weakness that makes it really, really hard to power through. And so that doesn't go away, right? But what you do see, is sometimes in the elementary years, the demands aren't that great, and so you don't notice it as much. But when children start to go into junior high, for example, there's so many things to juggle and do. You have to master so many topics, and some of them probably aren't in your line of interest. And so those things start to come to the fore, and maybe they're not doing so well at this, or maybe those are the subjects that you're helping them stay on top of, or that they have tutors with and things. The next step up is high school. So you tend to see that problem in high school as well. So it's not that the attention go away, but now we're looking at other things like executive functions, planning, organization of our thoughts to write into paper. And really the first 2 years of college. Why would that be? Because you have some basic requirements to get through the humanities and the other things that might not really be your thing, but maybe computer sciences or, maybe advertising and marketing or business. Those are the things that really get you going. So maybe your latter 2 years are easier, but those first 2 years when you're kind of studying those things that aren't so interesting. The other thing we really see when ADHD really rears its ugly head is when the bar gets raised high enough. So if you're going to school, and a lot of our clients are very bright, and so they can compensate in a number of ways. I can whip out the paper the night before. I can get the assignments done, do enough to, pass the tests, etc. But at some point when the workload gets high enough in junior high or high school, or you go to a college where everybody else is as smart as you, and the expectation is a 10, 20-page paper, you can't do that the night before. And so sometimes, we see ADHD really causing problems into advanced, like medical school or graduate school or, law school. And we do this all the time. Like, do you still need extra time for testing in, your law exams or bar exams or, your medical competency exams? Yeah, we see that. That's how we know it continues. And, on the other side of this into careers, the first couple of years when you're learning all the new things can be incredibly challenging and hard. And, sometimes people lose their jobs or they don't quite get the promotion because they just can't stay on top of their work. But, as they master certain areas, or maybe they get into their certain niche, Maybe they're forced into that niche, unfortunately, because of their special skills and talents that really they're interested in. So they can do this part. They can't do the other parts. Whether or not it interests them, they can't quite stay on top of it. So that's kind of the developmental trajectory of somebody with ADHD in general. That's why we don't see adults running around the room and, doing all the things that we might see in a very young person. But those are, it's more the phenotype of the disorder. You can see it. But the things that you can't see, the invisible parts, the impulsivity, the executive functions, the attention regulations, those are the things that you don't see, but they wreak havoc on trying to be successful for young people into early adulthood and maybe even throughout their careers. And, so these are the things to keep in mind. That information can be very powerful in terms of when you're thinking about what to do and when to do it. The best thing to do is to do it as early as possible, because if you can help a child overcome these difficulties, then they don't have these lifelong struggles. They have better transitions into things like junior high, high school, college, their chosen career and these things. So the bottom line, you do not outgrow ADHD. It looks different over time, but you just don't outgrow these things. Can you overcome it? Absolutely. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe. You'll have more helpful videos into the future. If you liked this video and you got a lot out of it, please click the like button below, and we'll see you next time.